friends. I'm Karyn, and this is the Family Food for Moms podcast. We're talking about inspiration for family cooking and dining. Today, I thought it would be fun to talk about some kitchen hacks and food hacks that are useful and good to know about. And first, I thought I'll tell you a little more about myself, as I haven't done that for a while. I'm a homeschool mum. We have 5 kids. 2 have graduated from homeschool, and we have 3 still going. We do love all the things that homeschool brings, and we so enjoy family discussions about the history and the politics and the interesting things that we learn along the way. We also love to cook creative meals. I have a business called Case of Adventure, which is country unit studies for kids. And there's a novel for each country and then an activity book. And we love as a family what we call virtual travel, where we travel to a place by watching videos about it. And then when they were younger, we used to do it as a whole pretend airplane with airplane food that related to the country. And nowadays we have meals that relate to a country sometimes. My oldest daughter is interested in Indonesia as a country, possibly for missionary work. So we're going to do an Indonesian meal and learn a little bit about the culture and the food. So it's always fun to be able to do that. And then, of course, my Family Food for Moms business is about learning and teaching about food in a family and about the inspiration, the perspiration, and the celebration of food. Having celebrations together as a family, being inspired by other cultures and other countries and learning from them in how they do food, and then practical tips and recipes, etc., to do with family cooking. My kids do enjoy cooking. The older 2 are quite good at it, and the younger ones are getting good fast. It's wonderful to be able to see them grow in the kitchen and doing that, both the boys and the girls, and know that they'll be able to cook for themselves when they leave home. So today, let's talk about some kitchen hacks. So these are all just quick, simple hacks that you may know about and you may not, but it's also good to be reminded. Sometimes we forget some of these things. Peeling potatoes. If you're busy making mashed potato and you're peeling your potatoes and you don't want them to go brown from the sugar on the surface exposed to the air, then just have a bowl of water and put the potatoes in the water as you go, and they'll stay nice and crisp and not go brown. When you're making rice, you can add some bone broth instead of water, or a vegetable stock cube to the normal amount of water. That'll give you more flavor, and in the case of the bone broth, good nutrition. When you're cooking pasta and you have the water ready, you bring it to a boil, then add the salt to that water. And Joe Bastianich from MasterChef always says salt like the ocean. So quite a lot of salt. That's a good amount to add to that water. And then a tiny little bit of olive oil or coconut oil will help the pasta not stick together. Also with potatoes, when you boil them with their skin on, then put them in ice water or wait till they cool. It's easy to just rub the skin off. Then you don't need to peel them. It's actually delicious, though, to make mashed potatoes with a bit of skin in. Garlic mashed potatoes with the skin is something I remember enjoying a lot in the States. Then a great kitchen hack is ice cube trays. If you have some basil pesto and you have leftovers, put them in an ice cube tray. Or if you buy a container of pesto, put it into the ice cube tray immediately. And then as you need pesto, you take out an ice cube and it defrosts quite quickly in a bowl, and then you can use it. You can use ice cube trays or soup containers, even those silicone soup containers. You get them in different sizes. So you can divide your barbecue sauce, your leftover soup, or take your portion of soup and divide it up into those soup cubes. passion fruit for flavoring things with baking. A lot of those kinds of things can be put into ice cube trays. So leftovers go in the ice cube trays, or as you make the food, you portion it out into the containers and freeze it ready for when you need one of those portions. If you have herbs, fresh herbs that you want to use, like parsley, pull them through a cheese grater with the stalk first, and then the little bits of the herb will pull off and get broken up a little bit, and you can just use them straight away like that instead of having to chop them. Crushing garlic is always the thing. You get all these fancy garlic crushers, but they're so hard to clean. The garlic gets stuck in all the places. So there's a couple that I enjoy. The one is a roller one, which crushes, but it's quite easy to use a potato masher or a fork or even a big knife to crush the garlic. To get the garlic cloves out of the head ready to use, you can slightly separate and crush them and then put them in a jar and give it a good shake, and the cloves should come out separated from all the skin. So when you're using a lemon, there's a couple of ways to make it easier. One thing you can do is roll it on the counter until it's soft, and then pierce it with a skewer or a toothpick and move the skewer around inside to mash up the insides of the lemon. And then you take it out and there's a little hole and you can squeeze the lemon juice onto whatever you're using. Or when you cut it in half, it's easy to hold your hand underneath as you squeeze to collect the pips, and then the juice will run through your fingers. Bananas. They seem to always be green when they arrive and then go brown very fast. One thing you can do to keep them fresh longer is when they arrive, you wrap the stems with foil or plastic. Just wrap it around the stem part and they seem to last longer that way. When you're dicing a sweet melon, you can cut it up into slices and then you run your knife along the skin to cut it off the skin, but keep it there, and then quickly slice it into pieces, and then you can serve it like that as an appetizer or just eat the pieces. Looks elegant and it's also an easy way to chop it. Mangoes, when you want to cut them, you can cut the two sides off by finding where the pip is, and then dice the mango in the skin and then flip it inside out like a porcupine and just eat the little pieces off the skin. Avocados, it helps to carefully cut around the whole avocado around the pip and then twist to separate the two halves. Then hit your knife against the pip and twist to pull that out using the knife. And then you can use a spoon to scoop the avo out the skin and then slice it, or you can also crisscross dice it while it's in the skin and then use a spoon to scoop it out. If you have half an avocado left that you want to keep in the fridge, it's best to leave the pip in to prevent it going brown, and you can cover it with something. A bit of plastic is not ideal, but it works. If you don't have a fancy olive depipper, you can take any bottle, plastic or glass, and balance the olive in the top. Hopefully it won't be small enough to fit through the gap. So balance it on top of the bottle, and then you use a skewer and you push the pip through into the bottle, and then you have your olive ready to use. And strawberries, in a similar way, you can use a metal straw or perhaps a plastic straw, hold them or balance them on something, and then push the straw through the middle to remove the green part, and then they're easy to eat. To marinate steak, it's a good thing to add pineapple juice because it'll tenderize it really well. The bromelain in the pineapple breaks down the proteins in the meat. So adding pineapple adds that nice sweetness and helps break down your meat. A fun thing to do is to take a cupcake or muffin tray that you'd use in the oven, and then use the bottom instead of putting things in the top. So you make a cookie dough and then you place it on the bottom of the muffin tray around each of the container parts. So you're going to get an inverted shape. You're going to get a little bowl. So baking the cookies on the underside of the muffin tray like that gives you little bowls to put dessert in. Delicious ones that you can eat. Any meat that you take out of the fridge for cooking, whether it's steak, stroganoff, stew, lamb, it's always best to let it sit at room temperature for about half an hour. In the summer, just be aware, especially with chicken. Do it a bit shorter, maybe then 10 minutes. But generally, I do about half an hour, and it brings the meat to room temperature, and then it makes it more flavored and less tough when cooking. So you leave it for half an hour, then you would season with salt and pepper, then you would start the cooking process. Also, have you heard of a bane or a basket for your utensils? It's easy to have the ones you use most often nearby when you're cooking. We have a couple that have holes in them so you can put your utensils in there to dry and they won't hold water. You also get ones that are solid stainless steel. And they're just very convenient to have in a couple of places in your kitchen so that you don't have to have all your utensils in your drawer, but they're easy to access, especially those big kitchen spoons or egg lifters. It helps a lot for those. When you're cooking, it's important to season each part of something you're going to put together. So if you're making lasagna, you need to make sure you season your sauce, your meat, whatever you're going to be using. And then season something that you're cooking at each stage. So when the meat's raw, you can add some salt, and then in the crock pot or pan, you can season again to make sure that your flavor is good. If your cutting board slips while you cut, it's very unsafe. So you can use a kitchen towel, dampen it slightly, put it on the counter, and then put the cutting board on top to prevent it slipping. Also, if you're doing lots of chopping or opening plastic containers with vegetables in, instead of having to walk back and forth to your kitchen bin many times, just keep a bowl nearby for those scraps. You can put them in there, either compost scraps or rubbish scraps, and then take them to the relevant bin when you're done. Then if you burn something in a pan or pot, the way you get it clean is you fill it up with water halfway, or however high the burn marks go, just a little bit higher. Then heat it on the stove and add some vinegar, some spread vinegar. Give it a bit of a stir to make sure it reaches all the spots. And then once it's boiled, you can pour the water out and the marks should be gone. Or you can repeat if it's got some stubborn dirt on it. Then last tip for today. If you need something to cool down fast, to use it in the next stage of your baking or cooking, you can use an ice bath in the same way that you would for eggs when you boil them. So you just need 2 different size bowls, and you can put the ice and water in the lower one and then the sauce in the upper one, and it will help you quickly cool that element down. This was fun. I'll do another lot in a different session, but I hope there's some things that you can apply. Send me your ideas if you have some. Karyn at familyfoodformoms.com. I hope you have a great cooking week, and thanks for listening. I'll see you next time.